There once was a time where nobody knew his name, but anyone paying attention to the sneaker world knew of him. A mysterious teenager from Oregon that was moving millions and millions of dollars in sneakers, silently, ruthlessly, and without ever stepping into the spotlight. And he called himself West Coast Joe, a kid with a warehouse that was bigger than most boutiques and stores. And he had access to some of the rarest Nike and Jordan sneakers on the planet. Hundreds and thousands of pairs that were never even released to the public or had previously been sold out. His business was booming. His identity was a mystery. But one question that everybody kept asking was how? How did a teenager build this huge sneaker empire like overnight? How did he beat the bots, win the raffles, the backdoors like every single time? Some thought he had a plug, while others thought he was the plug. But the truth was way more complicated than anybody would have ever imagined. West Coast Joe wasn't just some reseller kid with a special connect. He was sitting on a secret that was so big, it would eventually expose one of Nike's highest ranking executives. And this would go on to shake the industry and expose something that nobody was ever supposed to know or see. This is the Nike scandal that they tried to cover up, but it all came crashing down because of old West Coast Joe. It all started in 2017. Joe Hebert, or Hebert, I've heard other people say, was just a 15-year-old kid, and he made his first resale post on Instagram. It wasn't sneakers yet, but instead it was Supreme. T-shirts, hoodies, accessories, just about anything that he could get his hands on to flip for a quick profit. And at first it wasn't about fame, because Joe never showed his face. He always liked to keep quiet so he could fly under the radar, and at the time he was just another kid reselling for a few extra bucks. But over time, something changed. As his success grew, so did his appetite for attention, and Joe began building an online persona that we knew as West Coast Streetwear. And even though he never revealed his identity, he started flexing, posting hundreds and thousands of pairs of Travis Scott sneakers, Yeezys, exclusive Air Jordans, and we're not talking about just a few pairs, couple $100. We're talking about full-blown warehouses full of sneakers. He showed off pallets of boxes stacked from the floor all the way to the ceilings, and due to him showing off his success, the followers came. And with every post, more likes, more DMs, and more respect. But he still kept his face hidden. And not just because he was shy, it was because he was hiding something. Something that would come to light years later. And during 2020, this was, in my opinion, the all-time peak when it came to reselling sneakers. This was the prime time for like sneakers, sneaker con. With TikTok and YouTube, hypebeast culture was at an all-time high. And Joe took full advantage of this. And in 2020, Joe started renting U-Haul trucks and traveling across the United States, hitting multiple different Nike outlets and stores. And he would go to these stores and buy just about anything he could get his hands on and fill up these U-Haul trucks. He was buying out entire shelves of Nike sneakers, Nike Dunks, Jordans, but people noticed, and he even said in this video interview, that he got them using a Nike family discount. And for those of you who are not familiar, at Nike stores, they very often do like a 20% off, 30% off, 40% off, whatever it is of the regular retail, but then you can stack your family discount on top of this, leading you to get sneakers for sometimes 60, 70, 80% off. So to be honest, it didn't really matter what sneakers you were buying. If the retail was $200 and you were getting them for 20, 30, 40 bucks, there was always room for you to sell them and make a little bit of money. And at the time, Joe claimed it was just a hustle, but behind the curtain, there was so much more. You see, Joe had built a system, reselling, discounts, backdoor connections, and he had enough inventory to rival most sneaker stores. It even got to a point to where he had to buy a new warehouse because he had too much stuff for his old warehouse. He had already outgrown just reselling at home, in the basement, and then even his first storage unit. We're talking about a manufacturing style warehouse that is massive. And sooner or later, the fame started to get to him. Even though he kept his face covered, he started appearing in videos and interviews, flaunting money, power, and the stock. And this is when it all fell apart. And it all came down to one article specifically. You see, here's the part that Joe never mentioned on Instagram or any of these videos or articles. His mom was Ann Hebert, or Hebert. And his mom, Ann, was actually the vice president and general manager of Nike North America. And she had been with the company Nike for over 25 years. And according to Joe himself, he used her credit card to buy massive sneaker hauls, so it was all under her name. And insiders at Nike had raised red flags for multiple years. They saw saw Joe abusing the family discount. They saw the volume, the access, and this inventory of sold out sneakers, but somehow it just kept getting ignored. And remember that article that I said was the thing that changed it all? That was the Bloomberg article. You see, Bloomberg wanted to do an entrepreneur style article, like how did this kid become such a successful entrepreneur at such a young age? Where did he get this money from? Like, how did this all happen? And during this article, they also wanted to fact check him as well, so that he couldn't lie about all this money and all this inventory, like maybe it wasn't his or whatever. But Joe began bragging. He said in 1 month alone, he spent over $132,000 on sneakers and flipped them all for a profit. And he didn't even try to hide his connections. In this article, he openly bragged about the scale and the success of his business. And with him being a young kid, how did he have $130,000 worth to spend on shoes? Like, how does this all work? Well, the name on the card and the name for his business all linked back to Ann, the vice president of Nike. And literally within a few days of this article being published and it got out to the public, Ann resigned from Nike. His mom, Ann, resigned from Nike for personal reasons. And Nike claimed that it was completely her decision. But apparently Nike had no idea of her son's multi-million-dollar resale business with unreleased sneakers or sneakers that weren't released to the public or sold out sneakers. But Nike and Ann pretty much claimed like, we didn't know. But remember how I said this house got put up for sale like a few days after she resigned? Yeah, people started to realize that Joe's pictures with all these thousands of pairs of Jordans were at that house, Ann's house. People started putting up the pictures of him on the back deck with the listing of the Zillow listing, like the house being put up for sale. And in the living room, the kitchen, the back deck, the front porch, even in front of the garage, like fans started to piece together that there is absolutely no way that you can come home from work and just miss like 5,000 pairs of Jordans. Like you just can't. But what makes this story even worse is that Nike was publicly fighting resellers and bots this entire time. And the company claimed to block over 12 billion bot attempts per month on sneakers. You know, the sneakers app that is the only place you can buy the most hype sneakers in the world. Yeah, that app, sneakers app. They updated their policies that would cancel bulk orders. And they even went as far as altering their refund system because resellers would buy hundreds of pairs of Nikes and Jordan shoes off the website and then they would try to sell them or flip them. And why do I mention bots? Well, it's really hard for me to believe that Joe was not using bots. And this hasn't came out publicly, but I personally think the reason that he used his mom's card was because it was probably like a platinum Amex card, a card that pretty much had no limit on it. So when it came to these hype drops like Travis Scott, Off-White, he could have his sneaker bots buy thousands and thousands of pairs and his card would never decline because it had an unlimited limit. And with him being such a young kid, he would not be able to get the card himself. So therefore he used his mom's company corporate card that had no limit on it, which is insane because Nike as a brand, they had this public image that they fought resellers. And of course, after this came to light, sneakerheads were furious. The trust was broken. Every missed raffle, every sneakers release, every drop that suddenly sold out in seconds, it all started to make sense. I mean, even the resellers were outraged. And of course, after the Bloomberg article came out, Joe vanished. The West Coast streetwear page went silent and the account pretty much got wiped. And Nike tried to move on, but this scandal definitely left a mark. It didn't just expose the mother and son, it exposed how fragile trust is in this whole sneaker resale game. And then after a little while, Joe set up a separate business that is known as a cook group. Anybody in the sneaker resale world knows what a cook group is. But for those of you who don't know, it's pretty much just like a big group chat where resellers buy and sell off each other and help find like buyers. But Joe's was a little bit different. The role of Joe's group was to inform resellers about upcoming drops, as well as the inventory at certain outlets across the US. So in this group, there would be releases of information like, hey, this Nike store on this address is gonna get a restock around 3 p.m. tomorrow, so be ready. Or like, hey, this Nike store or Foot Locker is doing a late release. Normally when a hype sneaker drops, they do like a raffle in an app, right? You put your raffle entry in and then you either win or you don't, and then you go pick it up at your designated time and you take it back. This way, it's not first come, first serve. It's not a bunch of chaos, like 300 people trying to get these shoes for retail. It's a lot safer and more effective. But whenever there's a late shipment, it is first come, first serve, and they just put the shoes up on the shelves for the most part. So in this group, Joe could be like, hey, there's a late shipment, so it's gonna be first come, first serve. Be ready at this Nike store or this Foot Locker, whatever. But it's funny that even the rapper Drake has made a statement on this. During a huge Nike meeting, I don't know what exactly it is. I saw this clip floating around on YouTube and TikTok while I was like doing the research for this. Pretty much there's a clip of Drake at Nike headquarters and he's like giving a speech to all the Nike staff and like executives and stuff, and even like celebrities that are signed to Nike. And he said during the speech on stage that Nike didn't send him the Louis Vuitton Air Force Ones. Even though he was signed to Nike, he was kind of just making a joke like, hey, you guys never sent me the $5,000 Louis Vuitton Air Forces. But since Nike didn't send them to him, he jokingly said he had to get them from the vice president's son, Joe Hebert, or West Coast Joe. Which is so crazy that Drake goes up on stage and says, like, in front of the whole Nike staff, like, hey, since you guys didn't send them to me, I had to get them from Joe. And they all laughed and chuckled in the crowd. In this whole hype culture world, access is everything. And this goes as a reminder that not everybody plays by the same set of rules. And that pretty much wraps up today's video. I hope you guys enjoy this one. I tried to do 2 videos a week for a while, and I've talked about this a little bit in my other videos, but I felt like the quality was going down. Like, I never wanted to get to a point to where I was just posting just to post, you know, like on YouTube. I want to always have like a good story with like a good script that I can come up on my own. Like, I want it to be a really good, engaging video, and these scripts and editing, all this stuff takes me a long time, so I don't want it to just be like me just slapping some stuff together just to post. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. And also, for those of you who don't know, I post pretty much every day on Instagram, so follow me right here. This is where I post all the videos that don't make the cut for YouTube. And yeah, that being said, guys, I love you guys so much, and we will see you in the next video next week. All right, peace out, guys.